Peppa Pig, Daddy Pig Gets Fit. Daddy Pig is very sporty. His tummy is big, but it is made of pure muscle. If you want to get fit like Daddy Pig, you have to drink lots of water. You must also wear the right clothes. This is Daddy Pig's puddle jumping costume. No one is too old to be sporty. Just ask Grampy Rabbit. There are lots of ways to keep fit too. Football is Daddy Pig's favourite. Daddy Pig only has one fitness rule. Join in and have fun. The end. Peppa Pig, Wonderful Weather. Every day is a wonderful weather day. When it's windy, leaves blow into the air. Fog is a cloud that is on the ground instead of in the sky. Snowy days are fun, as long as you wear your hat, scarf and gloves. Sunshine feels warm. It helps Grandpa Pig's garden grow. Some days that start off sunny, then the rain comes too. Peppa and George don't mind. Rainy, sunny days make beautiful rainbows. The end. George's woolly hat. Peppa and George are spending the day at Granny and Grandpa Pig's house.
Hooray!
George is wearing a new woolly hat.
Wow!
Don't get your new hat muddy, George, says Mummy Pig. We promise not to get George's hat muddy, says Grandpa Pig. Peppa and George are playing in the garden. It is a very windy day. Hold on to your hat, says Peppa. Wah! Cries George as his hat sails up into the sky. Catch it, George, shouts Peppa. George chases his woolly hat right through the mud. George, you are all muddy, cries Peppa. But George's hat is still clean. The wind blows his woolly hat across the garden. Oh no! George's woolly hat is caught in a tree. I'll get it down for you, says Peppa. Grandpa Pig and George watch as Peppa climbs up the tree. Perhaps I should help, says Grandpa Pig. Oops, cries Peppa. Poor Peppa has fallen from the tree and landed in the mud. I see two little piggies who need a bath, says Grandpa Pig. Next time, George's hat blows onto some reeds in the pond. Luckily, your hat is still clean, George, says Grandpa Pig. He grabs a stick and reaches across the pond. Don't fall in, says Peppa. I know what I'm doing, Peppa, replies Grandpa Pig. Splash! Grandpa Pig falls into the pond. That was a silly thing to do, says Granny Pig. We were trying to get George's hat back, Granny, says Peppa. Where is George's woolly hat now? Asked Granny Pig. Granny Pig spots the hat.
Hooray!
It has landed on a spade, on a pile of stinky manure. If you walk on that manure, you'll sink, warns Grandpa Pig. Hush, Grandpa Pig, I have no intention of sinking, says Granny Pig, laughing. Carefully, Granny Pig climbs over the manure until she reaches the woolly hat. Got it, she cheers, but then Granny Pig falls over and lands in the heap of stinky manure. Ooh, smelly, Granny, says Peppa. Grandpa Pig, Peppa and George start to giggle. Mummy Pig arrives to collect Peppa and George. You promised not to let the children get muddy, cries Mummy Pig. Yeah, actually, we promised not to let George's hat get muddy, says Grandpa Pig. George's hat is the only clean thing, says Mummy Pig. The end. Peppa Pig, Grandpa Pig's greenhouse. Peppa and George are at Granny and Grandpa Pig's house. They race across the garden to find Grandpa Pig. Hello, Grandpa, shouts Peppa. George has found a ball and is playing with it. Careful, George, my greenhouse is made out of glass, which breaks easily, says Grandpa Pig. Grandpa Pig throws the ball out of harm's way. The ball goes over the fence and lands in Grandad Dog's garden. Oi! Who's throwing footballs at my greenhouse? Grandad Dog calls over the fence. Grandpa Pig goes to speak to Grandad Dog. Call that a greenhouse? It's a pile of rotten old windows, says Grandpa Pig. It'll grow more than you do with your fancy grass box, replies Grandad Dog. Grandpa Pig decides to leave Grandad Dog to his gardening. Could I have some tomatoes, please, Grandpa Pig? Asked Granny Pig. I'm afraid the tomatoes aren't ready yet, says Grandpa Pig. Maybe Grandad Dog will lend us some of his, suggests Granny Pig. Grandad Dog, calls Granny Pig. Do you have any tomatoes we could borrow? Borrow? You can take as many as you like, says Grandad Dog.
Hooray!
Everyone goes into Grandad Dog's greenhouse. They're a lot bigger than your tomatoes, Grandpa, says Peppa. They may be bigger, but that doesn't mean they are better, replies Grandpa Pig. Yummy! This is the best tomato I have tasted ever, says Peppa, tasting one. Says Grandpa Pig. Now Granny Pig has a basket full of delicious tomatoes. We're going to make a tomato salad, says Granny Pig. Grandad Dog tells her about his special tomato and basil salad recipe. The problem is I don't have any basil, says Grandad Dog. My grandpa had lots of lovely basil, says Peppa. Grandpa Pig shows them the basil he has grown in his greenhouse.
Wow!
Very impressive, says Grandad Dog. Peppa and George are feeling hungry now. Is it lunchtime yet? Asked Peppa. It's time to make the salad. First we slice up the tomatoes, says Grandad Dog. Then we use a little splash of olive oil. Don't forget to add these lovely basil leaves, says Grandpa Pig. Time to tuck in, everyone, says Grandad Dog. Grandad Dog's tomatoes are marvellous and Grandpa Pig's basil leaves are beautiful. This is the best tomato salad in the world ever. Cheers, Peppa. The end. Peppa Pig, Peppa Meets the Queen. Peppa and her family are watching television. Suddenly, there is a special announcement from the Queen. The Queen, the Queen! Peppa cheers. Hello to you all, the Queen says. Today I have decided to give an award to the hardest working person in the country.
Wow!
The hardest working person in the country is Miss Rabbit. At the supermarket, Miss Rabbit is closing the shop when Mr. Zebra the postman presents her with a golden letter. Miss Rabbit, please come to my palace to get a medal for all your hard work. Bring friends, all the best, the Queen. I can't visit the Queen, I've got too much work to do, Miss Rabbit panics. Don't worry, Peppa says. The Queen has made it a holiday. It is the day Miss Rabbit visits the Queen. Peppa and her friends are going too. We're off to see the Queen, we're off to see the Queen. E-I-I-D-O, we're off to see the Queen. Here we are, Miss Rabbit squeaks.
Wow!
Look at all the fancy stuff. Woof, Danny Dog says. Don't touch anything, Miss Rabbit warns. Where is the Queen? Emily Elephant asks. Queen! Susie Sheep calls. Where are you? In another fancy room, there is a lady sitting on a throne knitting. Hello, Peppa says. Have you seen the Queen today? I am the Queen, the lady says. The children are very excited to meet you, Your Majesty, says Miss Rabbit. I'm excited to meet all of you, the Queen says, standing up. And now for Miss Rabbit's medal.
Wow!
This is the Queen's award for industry. Keep up the good work. The Queen puts a shiny gold medal over Miss Rabbit's head. Cheers for Miss Rabbit, the Queen says. Hip hip, hooray, shout the children.
Hooray! Hooray!
Miss Rabbit and the children wear their boots to go out into the palace gardens with the Queen. Do you play in your garden all the time, Your Majesty? Danny Dog asks. I don't have time for playing, no, answers the Queen. She suddenly stops. Oh dear, a muddy puddle. Never mind, we can walk around it. You can't walk around a muddy puddle, Peppa says. You have to jump in it. Peppa shows the Queen how to jump up and down in a muddy puddle. I say, that does look fun, the Queen says. Here one goes then. Stop! Shouts Peppa. Everyone gasps. If you jump in muddy puddles, Peppa says, you must wear your boots, Your Majesty. The Queen goes inside and comes back with her boots on. Everyone loves jumping up and down in muddy puddles, including the Queen. The end. Peppa Pig, read it yourself. Going swimming. Peppa, George, Daddy Pig, Mummy Pig, swimming pool, Rebecca Rabbit, watering can, Richard Rabbit. Peppa and George are at the swimming pool with Mummy and Daddy Pig. Peppa loves swimming. Peppa gets in the swimming pool. George is scared. He will not get in. Here, let me help you, says Daddy. Splash! George gets in the pool. He is not scared. Richard and Rebecca Rabbit are at the swimming pool with Mummy Rabbit. We love swimming, says Rebecca. Try kicking in the water, George. It will help you, says Mummy Pig. George and Richard try kicking in the water. Oops! Try not to splash us, says Daddy Pig. Everybody gets splashed. George and Richard love splashing. Look! George and Richard are good at kicking, says Peppa to Rebecca. We are good at swimming, says Rebecca. Peppa and Rebecca go up and down the pool. Look at us, George, says Peppa. Richard has a watering can. Oops! He has let it go. Daddy Pig swims down to get the watering can. Daddy Pig is good at swimming.
Wow!
Here you go, Richard, says Daddy Pig. Oops! Richard is splashing Daddy Pig with the watering can. Try not to splash me, says Daddy. Everybody loves swimming. The end. Peppa Pig, Peppa the Zookeeper. It was breakfast time, and Mummy and Daddy Pig had a big surprise for Peppa.
Wow!
We're going to the zoo, announced Daddy Pig. You're going to be a zookeeper for the day.
Wow!
Wow! Cried Peppa. What do zookeepers do? Excellent question, Peppa, said Daddy Pig. That's what we're going there to find out.
Hooray!
Hooray! Cheered Peppa. Peppa was so excited that she sang all the way to the zoo. Bing bong bing, bong bing boo, I am going to the zoo. When they arrived, Mr. Lion, the zookeeper, was waiting at the gate. Hello, Peppa, he said. I hear you are helping us today. Yes, cried Peppa. What does a zookeeper do? First, you must put on your important zookeeper's clothes, said Mr. Lion, passing a uniform to Peppa. It was very early, and there were no visitors in the zoo yet. We need to get breakfast ready, said Mr. Lion. Can you help me pick some lettuce? Lettuce, said Peppa, for breakfast. Yuck, said George. It's the tortoise's favourite, explained Mr. Lion.
Wow.
Peppa and George picked all the lettuce. Is this enough? Asked Peppa. There are plenty, said Mr. Lion, looking at the empty lettuce patches. Peppa helped Mr. Lion feed the tortoises some lettuce. Breakfast with the tortoises was lots of fun.
Hooray!
They're very hungry, aren't they? Said Peppa. They are indeed, said Mr. Lion. Peppa pretended to be a tortoise, moving slowly and munching on a lettuce. Munch, munch, crunch. You look just like a tortoise, Peppa, said Daddy Pig, chuckling. I love looking after the tortoises, said Peppa. But what else does a zookeeper do? I'll show you, said Mr. Lion. We keep everyone happy at the zoo. Mr. Lion took everyone to check on the butterflies.
Wow.
Do butterflies eat lettuce for breakfast? Asked Peppa. Butterflies get your food and drink from flowers, said Mr. Giraffe, who looked after the butterflies. Peppa watched the butterflies slurp from the flowers. Flutter, flutter, slurp, slurp, said Peppa, pretending to be a butterfly. George giggled. Slurp, hee. What else does a zookeeper do? Asked Peppa. This is Mr. Crocodile, said Mr. Lion. She's the zookeeper in charge of the penguins.
Wow.
Hello, Mrs. Crocodile, said Peppa. What are you doing? I'm feeding the penguin some fish, replied Mrs. Crocodile. Would you like to help? Ooh, cried Peppa. Yes, please. Peppa and Mrs. Crocodile threw fish to the penguins. The penguins were very good at catching them. Waddle, waddle, catch, said Peppa, pretending to be a penguin. You look just like a penguin, Peppa, said Mummy Pig. Everyone laughed when they saw Peppa waddle, even the penguins. That was amazing, said Peppa. What else does a zookeeper do? Mr. Lion rolled up on the zoo train to collect Peppa and her family.
Wow.
Chee-chee! Cried George. Where are we going now, Mr. Lion? Asked Peppa. To check on the tiny creatures, said Mr. Lion. First stop, the wildwood. How exciting, said Daddy Pig. Hooray! Cheered Peppa and George. I can't see any tiny creatures, said Peppa when they got to the wood. Mr. Lion gave Peppa a magnifying glass. It made tiny things look big.
Wow.
Look, a ladybird, said Peppa. What does she eat? Smaller insects that she finds in the wild, explained Mr. Lion. So we don't need to feed her breakfast? Asked Peppa. No, said Mr. Lion. There are lots of things she can eat right here in the wood. After the wildwood, Mr. Lion drove Peppa and her family all around the zoo. Now everyone's had breakfast, what do we do? Asked Peppa. Lunch, said Mr. Lion. It's feeding time, said Peppa. Again? It's always feeding time at the zoo. But what do we feed the tortoises? Asked Peppa. There's no more lettuce and it's their favourite. We'll have to find something else, said Mr. Lion, frowning. Just then, Peppa had an idea. My granny and grandpa grow lettuce in their garden, said Peppa. We could get some from them. What a wonderful idea, Peppa, said Mummy Pig. That would be fantastic, said Mr. Lion. All aboard the zoo train. Next stop, Granny and Grandpa Pig's house. Chee-chee! Cheered George. Peppa and her family hopped on the zoo train with Mr. Lion. They trundled out of the zoo, down the road, and all the way to Granny and Grandpa Pig's house. Hello, little ones, said Granny and Grandpa Pig as the zoo train pulled up outside their house. You look very smart, Peppa, said Grandpa Pig. I'm a zookeeper for the day, said Peppa. How lovely, said Granny Pig. Peppa explained that the zoo needed Granny and Grandpa Pig's help. We've run out of lettuce, she said, and the tortoises want some for lunch. Well, said Grandpa Pig, we can certainly help with that. Grandpa Pig took everyone to his vegetable patch, and they got picking. Soon they had filled the zoo train with lettuce. Hooray! Thank you, Granny and Grandpa, said Peppa. Yes, thank you very much, added Mr. Lion. You're most welcome, said Grandpa Pig. Happy to help. Back at the zoo, the tortoises were very happy with their lovely lettuce lunch. What a fantastic zookeeper you are, Peppa, said Mr. Lion. You've looked after the animals and made them feel safe and happy. Being a zookeeper is fun, said Peppa. What do we need to feed next? Us, said Mr. Lion. It's feeding time for zookeepers. Let's wash our hands and have our own lunch. Peppa and her family sat with the other zookeepers. Fancy some lettuce for lunch, Peppa? Asked Daddy Pig. Yes, please, Daddy, said Peppa. I love being a zookeeper because it's always feeding time at the zoo. Peppa loves being a zookeeper. Hooray! Everyone loves being a zookeeper. The end.
Hi kids, did you have fun watching this video? Then like and subscribe for more.